What is up, Rumble? What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to the Ryan Matta Show. Thank you guys for joining us on this beautiful Wednesday afternoon. Today is April 10th, and we are going to be joined by my good buddy, Ben Kaufman. Ben, I'm not going to overtalk it. Ben is also working with Bitcoin Keeper. These are a couple pages that I'd like you to swing over and follow. All the links are down below in the description. I'm going to have Ben tell us a little bit about them, but I'm going to let Ben come on in here and introduce himself. Ben, how are you? Welcome to the show, man.
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Tell me a
How are
little
you
bit about
doing?
yourself, Ben. Where are you from?
Yeah, I'm from Israel originally, but yeah, living abroad, traveling a bit. Yeah, I'm working on Bitcoin for a few years already, quite a few years since around 2017. Yeah,
And tell me about the first time you heard about Bitcoin.
first time I heard of it was probably something like 2015, but didn't pay attention, of course, like nobody did. And then again heard about it around late 2016. That's when I started like digging around, seeing like what's up with that, like what's that shiny new thing that people are talking about. And yeah, I started just researching it, reading, started looking into groups about it, basically tried to learn everything I can about it. Yeah, and just got really excited about the idea of money without banks, without governments, money that you can own. I started working very young, so I used to have a lot of problem with banks. So I started working as a software developer when I was young, but the bank was really limiting me and my account. So Bitcoin really made sense to me in that case.
Tell me about that a little bit. What were you developing and how young? I know we had asked you how old you were. You're 23, man, and you're absolutely crushing it. I know. I wish I was that.
Yeah.
Had my head in the game like you do at 23. So you're ahead of your time for sure. So tell me about a little bit about what were you developing back then?
Yeah, sure. So I started with just mobile apps, so nothing like special or fancy. I started when I was like 13. I was at a course to learn how to develop Android apps, and from there I learned the other stuff by myself. So started with Android and iOS, then more web and servers, and yeah, then I just continued everything. So I started with freelance development, then worked at some companies, and yeah, then started working more towards Bitcoin.
And when you first started working with Bitcoin, what was it that you or what are you working on right now? I should say, and we'll kind of work our way back from there.
Yeah, so right now, I so as many people, I was also more into shitcoins back in the days, and now I still work with some shitcoin clients and in general like Ethereum stuff, but it's as my regular job. And mostly now, what I focus on with Bitcoin is Bitcoin Keeper, which I consult to. So that's a mobile wallet, Bitcoin wallet focusing on multisig, focusing on inheritance, basically focusing, it has a mobile wallet, it allows you to use Whirlpool to do coin joins, it allows you to do multisig with multiple devices, basically everything that you need for cold storage, also hot storage, actually.
And tell us a little bit about that. Walk us through the difference for people that don't understand. What are the difference, and why would you want to have multi sig and cold storage versus hot storage?
Yeah, sure. So cold storage is where you keep your Bitcoin long term. Like let's say you want to have your savings in Bitcoin. It's something that you want to have super secure and don't really need to access every day. So you keep it in a more secure way. Let's say in a multisig where you have two, let's say three devices, and you can sign with two of them in order to move the funds. So that's what you use cold storage for. You keep it offline, you keep it completely offline, in devices that are not connected to the internet, like hardware wallets, and you use it from time to time. And a hot wallet is just when you have your seed on a device that's connected to the internet, let's say on your phone or your computer. And then it's very easy to use it. So you just download an app, you start to use it immediately, and I mean, yeah, it's done. So you have the wallet, and but it's not as secure as the as a cold storage, especially not if it's multi-sig. But then but then a hot wallet is still good enough for small funds, and it's very useful if you need to do a lot of transactions.
So on the multi-sig that you're talking about there, you said, 2 out of 3 devices, or however, 3 out of 5 devices. Are you talking about that you actually have 2 separate keys? So you need the private keys from one device and the private keys from another device. So 2 out of 3 to actually sign a transaction.
Yeah, sorry. So with a normal Bitcoin wallet, you have one device, or either with your phone, or one hardware wallet where your key lives, and you use it to sign transactions. With a multi-sig, you can have multiple devices, multiple seed words, multiple private keys, and then you need a threshold of certain amount of private keys in order to sign a transaction. So let's say you set up a multi-sig that has a multi-signature wallet. Okay, that's just a short for multi-sig. You have 3 devices. Let's say you have 3 hardware wallets. You keep each in a separate location, and then you can use any out of these three to sign your transactions.
And what are your thoughts on the air gapped wallets? Do you think that all wallets need to be air gapped, or should be air gapped?
Um, so AirGap is kind of nice. It feels nicer, and it's usually more convenient to use. It's not a must, I would say, but it's nice when you have your wallet AirGap too. So it just means that you don't have to connect it via like USB, for example. But there are still attacks possible even if it's not connected via USB, which are kind of similar because even if it's USB or a QR code, you cannot read the actual data you're sending to your device. So there's still an attack surface. So it's nicer to have air gap, but I guess it's not it's not a deal breaker, and it's not an absolutely must improvement.
Okay. And now talk to me about the inheritance stuff that you had mentioned. You said that Bitcoin Keeper works on inheritance. This is the first time I've ever heard anybody talk about inheritance.
hmm Yeah, so inheritance is Bitcoin is quite difficult. So you need to make sure that the people that you love have access to your Bitcoin after you're gone, basically. And usually want to make sure that they have access after you're gone, but not before you're gone. So you need to make some mechanism for that. You need to plan in advance for that. So maybe you just leave them instructions somewhere safe where they will find it on how to use your wallet and where everything is stored. With Bitcoin Keeper, it takes an approach of having a special signing, basically a dead man switch with a signing server, where after a certain time you can, when you don't confirm it, it basically sends out a message and can act as a signer, as one of the signers, basically, the server key. Basically just helping you with the inheritance, and in general with the planning of the inheritance.
Wait, did you just say so like every week or month or year, like once a year I have to confirm something, and then after a year or two of me not confirming it, it's going to automatically transfer that Bitcoin to.
Yeah. So I don't completely remember the details in exact, but more or less, yeah.
Wow, that's super super cool. And you say you're from Israel, you're working abroad right now. What is Israel's response been to Bitcoin? Like, are they strict about it? Are they pro Bitcoin, anti Bitcoin, pro self custody, anti self custody?
Lots of Bitcoin companies around here. Lots of Bitcoiners, also good people too. Very nice community in general. But the state obviously doesn't really like it and tries to tax it as much as possible and be as strict about it as it can. So, I mean, with the people, the situation is nice. With the government, not so much. I mean, they obviously don't ban it or don't plan to ban it in any way, but they do try to regulate it heavily. So, yeah.
And what is your recommendations for people? Is it just save Bitcoin, cold storage it? Is there like a part of a community where you guys are using it on a day to day basis? Can you go to stores in Israel and pay with Bitcoin?
I think there are some stores that will accept Bitcoin, but it's not a very common thing. I mean, it's not very big here, like Bitcoin payments. I guess you can do it in some places, but not a lot, and it's not common at all. My recommendation, yeah, would be to keep most of your stack in a cold storage. Of course, you want it offline. You want it in a multi-sig usually if it's a big amount and worth the effort of a multi-sig. You want to plan it properly. Some amount, if you're using Bitcoin on a day-to-day basis or on a week-to-week basis, you probably don't want to keep everything in your cold storage. So you probably want to have either hot wallet or also a single sig with hard wallet, for example, as another solution. So for small funds, so you keep, let's say, 10% there and 90% in cold storage, or however you want to divide it, depending on how much you plan to use in the short term. But yeah, that's more or less what I would advise.
And have you seen with your hot wallet? Can you walk us through and tell us a little bit about the Bitcoin Keeper hot wallet?
Yeah, sure. So Keeper helps you generate your own hot wallet. So no, it's very normal. Just generates the words for you, or you can load the wallet into Keeper. And yeah, you can use it as a normal mobile wallet. It has a whirlpool feature, so you can do coin joins with it as well, which is also nice for privacy.
Tell me about that.
You can also, yeah, sure. So with Whirlpool, just a coin join implementation from Samurai, which allows you to do coin joins to obfuscate where your Bitcoin is coming from, essentially. So basically allows you to improve privacy. Keeper also lets you connect to your own node, so you can also keep your transactions more private, your funds with your usage more private. Because normally if you use a public server, then you have to expose some personal data like the addresses you're looking for, which obviously is a bit of a compromise in privacy. Or when you're broadcasting a transaction, maybe then the server you're broadcasting to might know your IP. So you can also be a bit more careful about that in certain ways. But yeah, mostly about the fetching of transactions that are incoming. So fetching your balances and checking your addresses. When you use your own node, you basically can just check it with yourself. So you don't need to query an external server and leak your addresses. But when you use a public server, you do. So that's why Keep allows you to also connect to your own node. This is, yeah, in terms of connecting your own node, there are more benefits, but this is like the main benefits in terms of privacy.
Can you? So I have my own node here, and it's all way above my head. I don't know even know I just bought one because everybody's like, "Oh, you should run your own node and support the Bitcoin blockchain." The more nodes we have up and running, so I got this node, I got it up and running, but I've never connected to it or never tried to send a transaction through it. Can you walk me through just explaining like how that process works? How do I find
Yeah,
my own
sure.
node? How do I know that
So,
I'm sending it to my own node and stuff like that?
mhm, sure. So yeah, just running your own node doesn't help that much. Like if you're running a node but you're not using it, it's not really very helpful. There are lots of nodes in the network anyway. Your node, if it's not even configured properly, then in a lot of cases people are running a node and they are not even allowing any incoming connections, so they are not contributing to the network at all, even in terms of just data traffic.
Hmm.
So, and even if you do, that's just really, really marginal. It's not really the reason to run a node. That's not why you're gonna run a node. You're gonna run a node for yourself. There are basically two main benefits. The first I explained is more about the privacy aspect. So you don't want to have to ask another node about your transactions because then you're leaking your transactions. You're leaking your addresses. If that node knows your IP address, then they can somewhat try and track you. So it's not that good for privacy, obviously. Using your own node, you have all the transactions of the blockchain and you're just checking against your own node for what's important to you. So nothing really leaks outside. So that's way better for privacy. The second reason to run a node is basically to validate your transactions. So when you're asking another node, like when you don't run your own node, you have to ask another server, right? You have to ask an external server, an external node that someone else controls for your transactions. So theoretically, they can do a lot of things. They can just straight out lie to you about the transaction, like invent something that data that was not real, that wasn't included, and basically trick you as a form of an attack. Or they can just use a version of Bitcoin, as we remember, for example, with all the block size wars. There were a lot of the fork that was happening. So validating your own node with your own node allows you to choose the rules of your node, allows you to choose the version of Bitcoin that you're running. If everybody is using just some exchange nodes, then the hard fork from, what was it, 2017, with the block wars, basically Bitcoin Cash would have become Bitcoin, because most of all of the big exchanges and everybody was on board with Bitcoin Cash. But because people were actually validating with their own nodes, they could choose which node they could choose which version they want, and then Bitcoin won.
No way. I didn't know that about the wars. I had no idea that all the exchanges were on board. I was told that the exchanges were going to decide with whatever network got the most hash power. And they were just going to go with that, with whatever one had the most hash power. I didn't know
There
that
was
the
there
exchange
was
all
a lot
switched
of
over to
mess
nodes.
in that. I was also a beginner back then, so maybe I remember some things incorrectly. But
No, I
from
think
what
you're
I
right.
remember, of course, there was a lot of mess there, and a lot of exchanges, a lot of miners were on board with going with the Segwit 2x back then.
Wow, that's crazy. And that just goes to show the resilience of Bitcoin, you know? And I don't think many people
Mhm.
understand how important those key past events are to the future of Bitcoin and its decentralization and its nature. So walk me through a little bit more about cold storage, hot wallets. What are you guys recommending? How do people get into contact with you? What are your services that you guys are offering? I want to tell me all about Bitcoin Keeper and everything that you guys do and how you guys can help people. Were you able to hear that, Ben? Ben should be back here in just a second. He must have had a little bit of internet issues. Oh, yep, I see him coming back in. All right, you're back, Ben. Can you hear me now? Hey, Ben, can you hear me? Hey, Ben, are you able to hear me?
Yeah, now I hear you. I
Okay,
lost you
cool.
for a
So,
moment.
yeah, sorry, I had to switch. Sometimes I got to toggle you on when you come in and out like that. Tell me a little
Okay.
bit more about Bitcoin Keeper. Like, if people want to reach out to you guys, what services do you offer? Or kind of give me a guideline on some prices. Walk me through the whole process.
Yeah, so we're still just coming out of beta right now. It's the app is in general it's new, but it has a lot of features, and I think it's really a really good offer, really good project. Yeah, for basically creating your own stuff, your own multisig, your own hot wallet, like everything is free. If you want some stuff that is like an extra, like collaborative custody or the inheritance stuff, that's with a subscription service.
And how much are those subscription services?
We're still debating the price. I don't remember exactly right now.
Okay, yeah, I'm trying to pull up your website here. It's loading right now, so I want to show everybody what you guys got going on over here. And again, to make sure you guys swing over here and follow these guys. Talk a little bit about what you think is going to happen for the future of Bitcoin. What are we seeing as on a global scale, global adoption, more wallets getting downloaded, less Bitcoin on exchanges? Kind of walk us through what you're seeing as far as the overall adoption of Bitcoin right now.
Yeah, I think we're in an interesting point. So it's really hard to say what's gonna happen now. To be honest, I'm really not sure myself. We're seeing that a lot of people are getting interested back again now in Bitcoin, now that price is going up. We're approaching the halving. So, yeah, of course, the interest is going to go up. Price is likely to go up. Like everybody's expecting that right now. But in terms of self-custody, I'm not sure where it will go, obviously. Like, obviously, exchanges are pushing people towards leaving their coins on the exchanges, or giving them for to lend them out and get some interest. And I was hoping to see people like more cautious about that after FTX, after BlockFi, after everything that went on the last cycle. But it doesn't seem like people are as cautious as I thought they will become from that. So it's an interesting point if FTX is gonna repeat itself in one way or another, big or small, but if something like that is gonna be happening again, or if people will take more responsibility a bit and start using more self-custody, which I hope to promote.
You know, it's crazy is I've lost over 1 million twice on 2 different exchanges, and I still have some coins on exchanges. I try not to. I try to take them off as often as possible. Every time I make more Bitcoin, I have a certain level that I keep on there because I have certain bots that trade 24/7 and make me more crypto. So I'm okay with the amount that I have on there. I know that I'm at risk because I've lost it twice, but I still do it. Sometimes I think to myself, like, how crazy am I after already getting wrecked twice to even leave a penny on an exchange? Why do you think it is that I would say I've been in the industry since 2015, and it's really taken me to this cycle to really realize that it's Bitcoin, not crypto, and just to put all my money into Bitcoin and not shitcoins. Why do you think people are
Mhm.
so? Why do you think it's so hard for people to realize that Bitcoin is the future? Is it just because of the high price point?
Um, I mean, yeah, obviously, like shitcoins are tempting for everybody. I mean, people you see people making lots of money on some new shitcoin with pump and dump, and then obviously most of them lose it, but you see some winners, and that's where like the loudest people are. Like you have a lot of people that lost money, a very tiny portion that made money, and then the part that made money is the loudest. So people get, more interested in that. But eventually it's mostly, yeah, it's kind of mostly like gambling or something. So obviously gambling attracts people.
What are your thoughts on these? You said you do some other work with other shitcoins and specifically Ethereum. What are your thoughts on the Ethereum coding language Solidity and all the issues? It seems like everything gets hacked that's built on top of Ethereum. It seems like it's almost
Yeah,
impossible for them to
so
secure it.
I work with Ethereum security. It's not easy to secure Ethereum contracts, so it's a lot of work to make sure that they are secure. So I mean, in general, they have a very complex system built on top of it. So every now and then, it's gonna get continue to get hacked. I think eventually, because as much as security is, as much as we work on security there, it's still extremely difficult, and eventually, yeah, shit happens there. I mean, Solidity is okay, but I mean, it just that the systems are very complex there, and yeah, eventually people find very creative ways to exploit them.
And that's because it's a Turing complete coding language. So it's a looping coding language. If I'm saying that right, it's recursive. And after it gets compiled, after your smart contract's compiled, it gets compiled into bytecode, which makes it almost
Mhm.
impossible for a human to read. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, yeah, more or less.
And so how are you guys auditing and securing these smart contracts if after they're ran, is there any way to verify it after it gets compiled into bytecode, or are you just praying that you got it right before
Yeah,
you
you can
compiled
you
it?
can verify that. You can verify it.
With a human, or do you have to have a machine or a computer that can
No,
uncompile it?
you need a machine for that.
And is that stuff that you have that your company that you guys work on is basically reverse
No,
engineering these smart contracts?
it's just no, it's just a normal procedure, really.
Really? And how many people does it take to have a team to like audit? Like if you guys were auditing a new layer one or L2, is it something you can do overnight, a week process, or something that's constantly
No,
ongoing?
it just depends on the size. No, it just depends on the size of the project, really.
Just depends on the size of the project. Talk to me a little bit more about what these different types of wallets. I want to hear a little bit more about like hiding your transactions. How is that possible? Like right now, if I send a transaction out just from any wallet or any device that I use, that can be tracked all the way back to me. Correct? No, there's no real way to hide that unless you're running your own node.
Um, yeah, so you can try to hide stuff like use VPN, use Tor. You can try to hide stuff, but obviously it's not 100%. Even if you use your own node, when you try to send your transaction, then they might try to track where the transaction, like what IP the transaction came from. There are stuff that can be done, so privacy is not the easiest thing, right? You can be probably quite secure if you use your own node, you use Tor, use VPN. I mean, you can be fairly sure that you're fine. And yeah, as I usually think about it, if you're just taking these precautions, then you're probably fine unless you're targeted by, for example, like a three-letter agency. But if you're targeted by a three-letter agency, then you're probably gonna fuck up somewhere and they're gonna find you anyway. So try not to be targeted by a three-letter agency. Yeah, that's like the best tip I can give.
And what are your thoughts with the other people that you're seeing in this industry? Are you think we're going towards a global adoption point right now? Do you think that Bitcoin stands as that beacon of hope for everybody that wants to fight for freedom and self-sovereignty? And
Yeah, so I hope so.
you hope so? Do you think that we're going to continue to see more and more people looking at Bitcoin? Like, what do you think do you think there's going to be a turning point where everybody's so sick of what's happening with their currency and their government, and that Bitcoin turns to be that like saving grace where you're just sick of your government robbing and stealing and looting the treasury and devaluing the
Yeah, I
wealth of your
mean,
nation?
people are usually, I mean, you can definitely see that people are getting more and more open to the idea of Bitcoin with their governments robbing them every single day, basically. So, I mean, if you try to explain somebody Bitcoin in 2017, then why do I need that? I have already like government money. Like, why do we need Bitcoin? I mean, the money is backed by government, issued by the government. We trust the government with that. And now it's way easier to explain to people why you want money that is not connected to your government. Like a lot, not everybody, of course, but definitely a lot more people are open to the idea. Okay, yeah, actually, money outside of the government makes sense. I don't want them in charge of my money. I don't want them to, I don't want them to manipulate my money. I don't want them to inflate my savings away. I don't. I can't stand with all the inflation. Currency collapses around the world. I mean, yeah, so people are way more open to it right now, I think.
And I heard yesterday I was watching a tutorial, and the guy was explaining like three different type of Bitcoin addresses you can have. Can you explain what he meant by that? Why are there three different
Um,
types of Bitcoin? Like one starts with a one starts with a something, and the other
yeah, so there are more than three right now. It just depends on the version you're using, whatever you're using. The normal Bitcoin address, like the oldest version, which starts with a one, or whatever you're using, whatever you're using, pay to script hash address, which is basically basically a contract kind of for Bitcoin, let's call it, or whatever you're using SegWit, or whatever you're using Taproot. So SegWit has a different address format, and Taproot has a slightly different format. So it just depends on which version you're using. Basically, each of these is created after a fork, and basically have a special set of rules which tells your node, your software, how to handle it, how to read it. So yeah, that's just different versions basically.
so there's multiple different versions of the Bitcoin blockchain running all inside the
It's
same.
not different versions of the blockchain, it's just different versions of the address itself. So think of it as a formatting thing. Um, when you have, I don't know, for example, you have the, I don't know, MP4 and MP3. Like you can still have an audio in both, but it's different formats.
Gotcha.
You have the SVG, you have PNG, you have JPEG. It's all photos, right? But
Yep.
it's different formats. So you can have your photo in different formats, for example. You could think about it more like that than a different really like a different blockchain or something. Like it's all Bitcoin.
And what are your thoughts on the different L2s that are coming up and being built on Bitcoin? Can you tell me what an ordinal is? I guess I don't fully understand
I'm not that much up to date with ordinals and the layer 2 stuff, so I might make some mistakes and apologize for that. So I'm not fully up to date with these things. I mean, ordinals, as far as I know, is just a numbering system for Bitcoin satoshis. So every Bitcoin in existence, they give it a certain number according to a certain protocol of when it was mined, and basically by that they kind of track each single sat. Like think about it more like you have your like every coin or every dollar bill has like a serial number, right?
Hmm.
So it's kind of trying to put on every Satoshi these serial numbers, like you have with banknotes and stuff.
Oh, that's really cool. That's really cool. Do you think Bitcoin, like when people say they're going to build on top of Bitcoin, I thought that the coding language that Bitcoin was wrote in kind of made that impossible. Did I hear that wrong?
It's not impossible, it's just way, 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 way more difficult and restrictive. But it's not impossible. Like you can build stuff on Bitcoin. The question is what you want to build, um, and how you build it. So ordinals, for example, is an external protocol. Like I could have created ordinals and reversed the numbering. Like let's say we start with the instead of starting from the start from zero from one, we start from the 21 million and go backwards.
Mhm.
Just for example. So I'm just saying it's something that is external to Bitcoin. So it's much easier to build stuff that is external to the Bitcoin system. That's not coming from like yeah like inside it, like the scripting language of Bitcoin. But then it utilizes the Bitcoin scripting, like with inscriptors, which are using ordinals and the Bitcoin scripting language. So that's another use basically.
And is that, does that make everything that gets built on top of Bitcoin centralized?
No, it's not really like I wouldn't call ordinals centralized in any way. It's just an external protocol. It just like if I remember correctly, ordinals is just an external numbering system.
Okay.
So it's hard for me to say that it's like good or that it's bad. It's just something that is completely external, basically.
And what are your thoughts on Plan B's outline for his model to Bitcoin? Do you think that we hit a point of hyperbolic adoption, like a day that all fiat currencies die, or do you
Um,
think that we're going to always have fiat currencies?
I mean, I hope to see fiat currencies die, just as every other Bitcoiner is hopeful to see it. I think it will take more time. Like, I don't think we're gonna see it in the next 5 years or something like that. Like, it will take like decades at least. But I'm hopeful to see fiat currencies collapse. Like, I think at least most of them do a pretty good job at collapsing themselves. So yeah, I'm quite optimistic about seeing less and less of them. And yeah, I hope Bitcoin is going to replace everything, basically. I definitely think it can eventually.
And you live abroad, so can you tell us a little bit about your work and what you're doing abroad?
Yeah, so I'm not, it's not that I'm working abroad at a specific place, so I can be wherever I want. So we just, yeah, I'm just using the fact that I can work remotely.
Oh wow, that's awesome, man. And do you have family, or who do you live with, friends, or just
Oh,
nomadic?
my girlfriend.
Girlfriend? And
Yeah.
is she into crypto? What does she think about Bitcoin?
No, not really. Not really.
No, really. So she's not a believer, huh? Did you try to work to get her
Just
to be a
not really interested in that stuff.
really cool, man. What about your friends? Do you have a lot of friends that are into Bitcoin?
I talk with a lot of Bitcoiners, but like everybody is living in a different place, so yeah, I'm not seeing Bitcoiners that often.
And what do you
But yeah, Bitcoin Twitter is kind of nice, but lately, yeah, a lot of people are kind of going from there.
do you do you ever go, what do you think about El Salvador and what Bukele's doing?
I haven't been to El Salvador yet. I really want to go,
Me too.
and I think I will probably go this year. I will definitely try to make the trip this year. But like it seems like really nice progress. Like everything, like the first of all the entire change in terms of safety. Like it's absolutely amazing. The progress there was incredible. It was great. And yeah, and with Bitcoin, it's also really nice what they're doing. I mean, it's great to see more and more people using it.
Do you think that there's going to be another country that, like Argentina? I know a lot of people were excited thinking Argentina was going to maybe jump in the race. Do you ever see a time where Israel
I
maybe jumps in the race and decides to make Bitcoin legal tender?
no,
No.
no, they're not gonna make Bitcoin legal tender in the coming future. That's for sure. Argentina, I think they will probably go to the dollar before they go to Bitcoin. Um, But yeah, I mean, I think it will take time with more countries and definitely with the bigger countries. Like Argentina is pretty big. El Salvador is great, but it's not definitely not the size of Argentina.
Yeah.
So I think with the bigger countries it will be harder. Uh, I think like small countries or like small communities like we see around the world, like not entire country, but communities around the world are adopting Bitcoin, which I think is really great.
Tell me, so if you have 5 key pieces of advice for somebody that's just starting to get into Bitcoin, maybe they're just hearing about it or they're just realizing that they need to pay a little bit more attention, where would you recommend starting for like a brand new person? What videos, what movies, what podcast? How would you start going about that?
Yeah, I wasn't like listening to podcasts very much in a while, honestly. So I'm not fully up to date. But yeah, I mean, just learn as much as you can. Just take it slow at first. Just read about it. Maybe buy some. Even if you leave it on an exchange at first, it's not the end of the world. Like if somebody heard about Bitcoin and that you have to self custody, like it's not the end of the world if you start with buying on and keeping it on an exchange first
Mm.
as you and just take it off there as you learn more. So yeah, I would definitely say start slow. You don't have to run your own node with multisig from day one,
Yeah.
not the first month even. Not just take it slow basically. You
Yep.
you learn about Bitcoin. You can read about it as much as you can. Read articles. Come over on Twitter, hear some podcasts, and yeah, and basically just make sure that you're comfortable with what you're doing in terms of what you're buying, how you hold it. Learn about self-custody in your own pace. So try to use with small amounts like a mobile wallet first, then try to buy a hardware wallet. Just yeah, do everything at your own pace. Don't rush with nothing.
Agreed. I think that's great advice, man. And where do you think that our world's headed into a place where the powers that be are going to be willing to give up the power, or do you think this is something we just slowly chip away at and chip away at, and eventually they just can't stop it?
I mean, yeah, like the powers, like government, that will not give up its power voluntarily. Like I think they made it very, very clear that they're only willing to take more and more power. Like they're definitely trying to expand themselves, restrict people, restrict speech, restrict everything that they can. And I definitely think they're gonna try and restrict everything even more, restrict travel, restrict freedoms, everything basically that they can do. So yeah, I wouldn't expect them to give up an inch by themselves. So I hope Bitcoin can give more power to people to avoid that, to avoid the all the restrictions that there are and that are coming right now. All the cashless society, CBDC stuff. Bitcoin gives another alternative, and I think it's very promising in that sense.
And tell me a little bit about Nostr. I try to describe it to people. Me and you had talked about it. We know it's super early on, and you said there's just not many people on there. Can you tell us a little bit about what Nostr is?
Yeah, Nostr, as far again, I'm not an expert on Nostr.
Yeah,
I
for sure.
haven't been doing that much on it, so again, I can be wrong on stuff. But Nostr is basically a decentralized protocol for messaging. So you can build on top of it stuff, for example, like the decentralized Twitter, um, in a sense. And that's what most people are using it for right now, as far as I know. Using it for like Twitter kind of competitors like Primal, I think, and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's nice and it's obviously a good development, but for now, it's just that it doesn't have a lot of traction and not so many people are using it. So, to use like Nostr over Twitter, for example, is not really easy. It's a bit boring. Um, I hope to see it grows in the future. I hope they will become better, more interesting, more people. Just for now, it's still very early, I guess.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna start like once I get my Noster account set up, I think I'm gonna run ads every day on my show on LFA TV for it and try to get more and more people. Every day I'm watching what they're doing on TikTok in the United States. They're whatever happened with our government when our government decided they were going to put a ban out and ban TikTok if it didn't get sold to a USA company, and just watching what has happened to people's accounts in the last couple weeks. I mean, their reach going from 10 million down to 100,000. Every single video, people just reading government documents, like our own government document. A guy named Ian Carroll was literally reading a government document by our own government. That's it. Just showing it on the screen, reading it word for word, and then being like, that's, something's not right here, and that was it. And he got a strike on his channel, and now he's like this close to getting striked out. It seems like they're trying to take away everybody's freedom and everybody's ability to speak freely and get a message out. So I just think that if people had something like Nostr and like enough of these big names are just getting sick of getting deplatformed, all of a sudden, people are on these platforms because we want to see the message that these people are putting out. And if we can't see it, but we can see it on somewhere like Nostr, I think that there's a huge market for people to start moving their, at least the big names, and the big names will bring the smaller names over.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, government is doing a lot of free advertising for censorship-resistant protocols, whatever, Bitcoin or Nostr, by censoring people. So the more that they're censoring, the more they're making the case for stuff like Nostr or Bitcoin.
And a
And I definitely
Nostr,
think that they will continue to censor more and more. So I mean, Bitcoin and Nostr will likely grow more and more with that.
and if you want to start a Nostr account, do you have to run your own node? Do you have like,
No,
or
no, I mean, you
tell me
don't
about it?
have to. So you just, I mean, it's as simple as downloading an app and creating an account. I mean, you create your private public key,
Mhm.
and I mean, that's it. It's really as simple as downloading an app. Like you don't have to set up a node or something like that. Like when you're using Bitcoin, you don't have to set up a node in order to use Bitcoin, right? I
Mhm.
mean, you can just create your private key, your public key, and I mean, you can use it. So basically, similar with Nostr. I mean, you can just create your key, that is your account, and yeah, just use it.
That's awesome, man. And then if I do run a node, what are the advantages of that? That means my profile will always be online no matter what happens. And then I can also support.
I'm I'm honestly not familiar with Nostr enough to know
Okay,
how the network works. To be honest, I haven't looked at it enough.
great, Ben. Well, walk me through your guys' site. I want to give a big shout out to everything that you're doing over here at the at Bitcoin Keeper app and the features, the team. Walk me through this website. Give me a little rundown really quick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. I haven't looked at this site for a while, but yeah, basically, I mean, it just shows you, yeah, the feature, the team. Bitcoin Keeper, yeah, you can see as the screenshot there, sorry, basically how the interface looks like. You have your wallets there, whatever it's the hot storage or cold storage. You can manage your keys. You have the option for managing the security and inheritance.
Hmm.
Yeah, you have like the great overview of your wallets and how many wallets you have, because you can have multiple hot wallets, multiple cold wallets. You can have, for example, your hot wallet, your parents' hot wallet, your grandma's hot wallet there. And then manage like a whole cold storage scheme, like a 305, 203,
Hmm.
whatever you want. But it's a very flexible tool for holding.
Great, man. And tell everybody where they can find you on social media. Where you guys where do you put out your most content? I know I got your Twitter up here on the screen. People can swing over there. Links are also down in the description. Is Twitter your go-to spot right now for people to reach out and
Yeah,
hear your message?
so Twitter is definitely the go-to spot for reach out. I used to have run some Medium Substack stuff, but not lately. So usually, like, just Twitter is the way to reach out.
And as far as price goes, where do you think for this? We'll wrap it up here. What do you think the price of Bitcoin is going to be in the next? I don't know. After the halving, do you expect any explosive moves as soon as the halving happens, or?
I think everybody is kind of expecting Bitcoin to at least double in the next year or so. I mean, it's kind of like expected by now with each cycle, like Bitcoin explodes after the halving. So, I mean, it kind of feels like it's gonna repeat itself, but again, I don't make any price predictions and I don't really know myself. So, I mean, we can either be surprised, we can see it going up as expected, kind of. But yeah, it's really hard to say.
Well, Ben, man, I greatly appreciate you coming over here on the show. Thank you for joining us this morning. This was, great information, and I appreciate everything that you're doing for Bitcoin. And hopefully, you guys be safe over there in Israel. God bless you, my friend.
Thanks. Thank you.
God bless.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, folks, that's a wrap. Do me a huge solid on your guys' way out the show today. If you guys could do me a solid, just smash that like button. If you're on Rumble over there, just swing down, make sure that grayed out thumbs up button turns green. We greatly appreciate it. Hopefully you guys enjoy this content. Make sure you guys swing over to Twitter and follow Ben. Swing down below in the description. Links to all of his websites and everything that he's working on are down below. Substacks and also. God bless you guys. Hopefully you guys have a great day. We'll see you over on LFA TV today at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We got the Daddy Twins coming over. We're going to talk about all about that TikTok censorship, what's been happening to his account. I think he's lost 6 accounts now. Our government tyrannical overreach is getting out of control. So if you guys want to hear more about censorship, come and join us over on LFA TV. And we'll be back over here live at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. God bless you guys. Later.
Run.